Well, here, like, we'll try it and see where we go. So, topic 4, Trove Topics, is where you can tweet at me or use the hashtag Trove Topics, or tweet at the show at Trove Talk, and we'll kind of take your questions and answer them. So, up first, friend of the show, Brandon Gann asks, at Games Gann asks, if you had to pick one thing about your favorite hobby you don't like, what would it be? So just bump. We'll just kind of maybe rapid fire through these. So for me, I would say like the fanboyism of gaming is certainly something that kind of often rubs me the wrong ways, because it's I don't like when arguments are so passion driven instead of logic driven and using rationality, because it just opens people up to crazy hypocrisy where the thing they love about one game they hate about another game, even though it's the exact same thing, just because it's like they're so ingrained in fanboyism. So how about you? What do you have? What's the hobby, and what do you?
I agree on. I'll hit that in just a second, but what you said. I have like the double burden of being a gaming fan and an anime fan, an equally passionate and sometimes toxic community that can get it does more bad than good. Some of the conversations they have.
Yeah, absolutely.
But anyways, he says hobby, and I wouldn't really consider filmmaking a hobby, but I'm just for that's what he might have meant. And so just like the worst thing about filmmaking is when you're on a set and the people in charge don't have they want to cut corners, and the project ends up suffering because of it. And I'm a real stickler for, I like to bend rules and stuff, but I'm a real stickler for like proper preparation, like pre-production, like, you know, as much detail into getting ready for a shoot as possible. And I hate it because it ends up taking twice as long, and it's half as good when you don't properly prepare for a film set, you know.
Yeah, no, I ran into the same thing doing like theater rehearsals. If people don't show up ready to go, or off book, or on, like, if they don't know their lines, and now suddenly my rehearsal is derailed because somebody else didn't come prepared. It's one of my biggest pet peeves in that hobby as well. Cool. Next question is from our friend Nikki Powell at Harley Quinn 103. She says, "I'm gonna need a good ramen recipe. The dude's ramen looks so effortless. K, thanks." So yeah, like she posted this, and I immediately knew, because a lot of your Snapchat stories at Pixel Brave on Snapchat are just delicious looking ramen that you just kind of throw together, and I'm like, I hate you, dude. So what's your what tips and tricks or ramen recipes do you have for Nikki?
I mean, it's really very simple. Like the ramen I use is like just the typical 60-cent like college dorm room ramen, but all you do is just put it in a bowl with your favorite things. And the sad thing is that I was actually in Japan for 2 weeks and didn't really experience but one bowl of like authentic Japanese ramen. But anyways, before I get long-winded. Yeah, like what do you like? You just visited the vegetable aisle, and what do you like? So usually I like green onions, I like mushrooms, so I just like kind of saute them a bit and throw them in the bowl. I like chicken, so I'll season it, just put it on the stove and throw that in the bowl. It's just really I'm sure you can think of a better word than me, just a big collection of, you know, your favorite things. And the only tip I have is don't use the actual flavor packet that comes with your ramen. Put a little soy sauce in there, very little, just for extra taste, and let the rest of your ingredients do the flavor action for you.
Excellent. I have nothing to add to this because I don't make I barely ever make my own food. I barely ever cook or anything like that. And ramen is not one of my certainly not one of my fortes. I think the only time I ever really do ramen is when we're all like together at one of these events or something. And in San Francisco, I'll come out with everybody and do some ramen. But yeah, for the most part, I'm like, oh, that's just not a, like, even in college, I never did the poor man's ramen. That was just never, like, I just did fast food instead. So cool. Our friend Brian Artist Jackson at Nabishin186 asks, why is Christian an FMA Brotherhood naysayer? If I recall correctly, this came about as a result of when Danny was on the show and talked about and recommended Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, and you kind of chimed in the comments when you were listening to the show. You were like, why that one? Why Brotherhood? So do you care to respond and defend why Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is the inferior FMA?
Yes. Before I do, I honestly, I'm my old man brain. I honestly don't remember if I gave Nick any love. Thank you so much for your question, and thanks for watching my ramen. And I hope someday we can have some ramen together. But Brian, about Navashin, I don't know. I always call him Navashin. The reason why everybody likes Brotherhood is because it properly tells the story of the manga, but I think it's an inferior production. The 2003 version of Fullmetal Alchemist, I just think is better produced in that it has much better art, better acting, better colors are much more vibrant. Whereas Brotherhood, yes, it tells a better story, but you know what? I already got that story from reading the manga, and so even though it's retelling it accurately in anime form, I think the image quality is inferior. I think they skip over a lot of important moments because and Danny even touched on this. He's like, the reason why they skipped over them is because they know that real fans already experienced it the first time that the anime came out. But I mean, I don't think that's like a valid reason. So I think just from a production standpoint, story, yes, I admit Brotherhood has a better story, but just the product that they give you is inferior.
Excellent. Great little defense of it. Thank you. Up next, Ben Bellevue at Mr_Bento Box asks, for you, Christian, what's your favorite part of making vids?
Just the team effort. I love collaborating and sharing ideas, and so I'm actually really sad because this weekend I was supposed to be in Houston and being part of the 48-hour film competition with my friends, but as I said earlier, my car broke down, so I can't be there with them.
Well, you had to collaborate with me on this instead, so it all worked out.
Yeah.
And again, thank you so much for coming on. And then Ben asks, for me, how does one get on this illustrious show? And Ben, you basically just get added to my list of people here on my note in my phone. So I went ahead and just threw you on the bottom. So I'll get around to you at some point. I've still got at least 20 people on here that I need to work with and coordinate that I already know I want to bring on the show at some point. So it's an ever-growing list. Thank you for the interest, and I'm sure we'll make it happen at some point. Brandon Gann at Games Gann lean forward in that intently was his kind of response to the tweet. Fiona McKinnon at Zeranix, which should be at Phalona or at Fionope if you follow her on Twitch. She asks, if you could pick a novel or play that has never been made into a movie, what would it be, and who would be the lead roles? Have you had a chance to kind of give this one some thought? Because I've got an answer that I've put together if you need some time.
No, yeah. In high school, I read these novels they were mystery novels, and I don't even consider myself a fan of mystery books. This was the one exception. There is this series by an author named Rudolfo Anaya or Alaya. I think it's Rudolfo Anaya, but it's this mystery series with a Hispanic detective, and like seeing Hispanic heroes is a rarity, and so in high school that really resonated with me, and I always thought, like, if I ever got the chance to grow up and actually become a very successful filmmaker, I would love to do this series, because I mean, it's they're cool mysteries, but they really embrace like Hispanic superstition and the culture of like the curanderas and Mexican like superstition and the kind of occult culture part of Mexico, and so I always thought it was really interesting, and so I don't have any actors in mind because I always read those books and imagined family members in those roles, but that is definitely a series that, and I don't know the umbrella name because every book has its own title, but if you looked up Rio Grande Falls, like the Rio Grande they all take place in Arizona, or in New Mexico, by the way. But Rio Grande Falls is the first one that I bought and really enjoyed.
Excellent.
How about you?
Like, I think your family can certainly be the leads in it. There's nothing. She didn't say it needed to be celebrities or anything. Great. Yeah, my answer. So my immediate go to was like Hamilton. They should just make that a movie and just do it with who like all the original actors. Um, the alternative, one of the things they're doing right now with Hamilton, which I've expounded on back when Alex was on the show, we talked about that a lot. Is they're doing a mixtape right now, a mixtape version where they're taking like the songs of Hamilton and remixing them with like hip hop artists and musicians and whatnot. And so the alternative to seeing it with like the original people up on the big screen would be seeing it with hip hop artists and like masters of that craft embodying those roles. I think would be a really interesting kind of take on it. And then the alternative, if I want to go with like a novel, it's a personal choice, but it's a friend of mine, a gentleman by the name of Tom Levine. He's a local young adult author here in Arizona. He and I worked together in theater a little bit. One of the first things of his I read was a book called Party, and it's basically like a high school theater party, like end of senior year kind of thing. And each chapter, it's told a little bit like Game of Thrones style. So each chapter is told from a different person's perspective, and so you kind of go from character to character throughout the night. I don't really have like a cast picked out for that one, but like just a lot of good young and up and coming kids, because it was very it was very angsty, and it like I read this probably 10 years out of high school myself, and it was very like nostalgic for high school and the things that those kids are going through, and it was a very good diverse set of characters. So if anybody out there hasn't read it, or is as I'm sure most of you have not read it, because he's not like a big blockbuster novelist, but yeah, it's a book called Party. Because he's done theater for years and years, that's how I knew him, was as a theater director. He's got a great way with dialogue. Like he can really write characters talking back and forth in a way that I don't always see very well in reading in literature. So yeah, that would be my my answers, my two answers there. And then last question.
That actually sounds really cool.
Oh yeah, huh? Sorry.
No, that sounds like a really cool plot. I like that. I really like slice of life coming of age.
He's got another one that I haven't had a chance to read yet. I don't even remember what it's called. I think it's called. No, I don't even remember. But it's basically like theater. It's like he writes what he knows. So it's theater kids, and like while they're like at school, like working backstage or something, a zombie outbreak happens, and so it's like the kids in the theater department having to survive a zombie outbreak, and what that experiences is. He's got some fun ideas out there. He's a great guy. Definitely check him out, Tom Levine. Nice. So last question real quick. David Game Galt at David Game Games on Twitter asks, are there any other skills you wish you had a natural talent for? If so, how would you utilize them?
This is what you call a callback, bringing it all back to games, because I mostly played platformers and stuff like that. I never learned or acquired the hand-eye coordination to play shooters, which, like so many of my friends and family, are such a fan of them. And I grew up watching shooters, like my cousins playing GoldenEye and Call of Duty and Modern Warfare, and I always like thought they looked really cool. But like whenever I just grab the controller, I just end up shooting the sky, shooting the floor, and I've only ever successfully beaten one first-person shooter, and that is BioShock Infinite, which was cool. And it kind of gives me the hope that someday I can really learn to hone that skill, because they all look great. Like, Overwatch looks like a lot of fun. Destiny, which looks kind of like, I'm not really into war games or shooters or anything, but it's just separated enough because it's sci-fi and with a hint of mysticism and supernaturalness that I'm intrigued. I kind of want to check that out, but I know that I would just keep dying.
Nice. I mean, mine is more outside of the gaming spectrum. I would love to have a natural talent for playing music. More so, like I was a percussionist growing up, and played. So I could read music, and I would play. Even like I wasn't just a drummer. I would play the like xylophones and timpani and stuff. So I could read the music and I could perform the music, but I always wanted to be able to just like it'd be really cool to be able to like pick up a guitar and just kind of play that or sit down at a piano and without having to study a song for hours and hours to parse together like the theme from Harry Potter, just being able to kind of have a quicker understanding and just be able to like crank something out, whether it be like original stuff or like accompany myself on like just the songs I enjoy. Like I'd love to just be able to sit down and create music in that regard. That's probably what I would go to. So yeah. Well, thank you, Christian, for joining me. I think I've got like a couple minutes here to do the outro. So at Pixel Brave is where they can find you, and then it's is it also youtube.com/pixelbrave, or do you have like one of those like garbly things and they need to actually just search Pixel Brave?
No, it's at /pixelbrave, but I usually ask people to check out my Twitter.
Yeah.
It's just easier for me to interact with people if they have any comments about anything that I'm doing.
Yeah, sure, but they can see the videos. They can see after the credits.
Yeah.
After the credits at YouTube /pixelbrave, which will be in the comments below. You'll be able to you can find the link down there. Well, thank you so much, Christian. I look forward to seeing you in a few weeks. As far as it's PSX is going to be a lot of fun. Going to have some great videos coming out of that, I'm sure. Be part of the show. Tweet at Trove Talk with your Trove topics. #Trove topics. Thank you to everybody that did use the hashtag this week. Even if you were calling me out for giving people crap on it, Brandon. I saw. And thank you also for Fiona for coming up with #Trevor topics. That was a new one I hadn't seen yet. You can follow me at Snarky on Twitter. You can check out whatever I've been writing recently, if I've been putting anything up there on trevortrove.com. And I think that's the depending on when you watch this, as it's coming out and whatnot, I am going to be streaming for Extra Life over Thanksgiving weekend. So please come check that out. I'm going to be playing Bloodborne for the very first time, having never really played a Souls game, and I'm pretty bad at video games, so going to be dying a lot. And I've made the commitment that I will be donating $1 for every death during my run through the game. And I hope I have enough money to continue going to shows afterwards. But it's going to be for a good cause, for Extra Life. I'm supporting personally the Phoenix Children's Hospital here in AZ. They do a lot of great work and have a lot of great programs for the kids that are in and out their doors. So yeah, check that out. That's going to happen over Thanksgiving weekend. Follow me on Twitter at Snarky for more details. I'm sure I'll post and tweet out as I'm getting closer to it and probably write up a thing. Again, Christian, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a lot of fun, and yeah, I can't wait to see you again in a couple weeks. And
yeah, man, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. From here in the Trove, treasure your friends. Until next time.